So the first encryption that we're going to talk about is WEP or web cracking or web breaking. It is going to be a web encryption because it's the oldest one, is the easiest one to break, but we still don't know or still need to learn how to break it, because you will see networks that still use web application with encryption uses an algorithm called RC4. Each packet is encrypted at the access point and then it's sent to the air. So once the client receives it, since the client has the key, it will be able to decrypt the packet and read the information that are all inside. So very simple. Apply the IP encrypt on the packets and send it to the client to receive it. Then the client has the key, so the client then decrypts it. Same way, when the client sends the packet, it encrypts it and decrypt it and send it to the air. The cog and the access point then receives it. The access point has the key, so it will decrypt the package. So each packet is sent into the air has a unique key stream and ensures that the key stream is unique using a 24-bit initializing vector. So the initializing vector is a random number. It's sent into the packet and it's sent into a plain text. So this part is not encrypted. So if you read a packet and you'll be able to read it a plain text. But the problem with this is the IP or the initialization is very short. It's just 24-bit and it's not that long. So in a busy network, there will be a very large number of packets that are sent into the air. This means the number of possibilities of random IPs will be exhausted, and we will have two packets that have the same initializing vector. So the initializing vector is 24-bit random key. It's sent into the air in each packet and it's sent into a plain text as a plain text in a busy network. So we are going to have a very large number of packets. This means that the possibilities of unique IPs will be exhausted, and then we will be able to sniffing this all those packets, and we will be able to collect those packets who have the same initializing vector. So once we have two packets and they have the same initializing vector, and then it will be use a statistical attack to determine the key stream, and after that it will be determine the web key. Okay, so from the above we know that the more IPs are initialization vector that we collect, the more likely that we will be successfully to crack the web key. So our main goal when we try to crack web is to collect as much as IPs as we can, because once we have a large number of IPs, then we are going to have like two packets, then we will use the same IPs, then it sends the air to crack the packet, and which is more likely able to determine the key stream and the web key for the targeted network. So believe it or not, there is a methodology when it comes to hacking wireless, and when it comes to methodology, I am often reflective upon famous quote by a businessman whose name is Mr. Barnes, who often says, make sure that you release the hounds, meaning let's go after this thing full-heartedly, and a lot of the time we can do that without being very active as well. So in this lecture we are going to go through and we are going to take a look at the method to the madness, and that's where going in first. Look at how do we find the Wi-Fi network doing the Wi-Fi. So then we will take a look at the GPS mapping. What I mean by this is being able to obviously pinpoint where the Wi-Fi networks are located. this isn't like a cable that you can actually trace by yourself. So we need to have some types of way of marking this, then go through and take a look at some wireless analysis, followed by finally launching the attacks and against the network, and finally going through the cracking the encryption. Now if you try to skip any of these methods within the methodology itself, you could possibly end up not being very successful in hacking the wireless network. So let's go to step 1. So Wi-Fi discovery is your first step in the methodology of hacking wireless network, and we always look at this in the same aspects that what we do in the standard network, that we need it to first to see what's going on around the environment itself. So if you remember from our previous lectures, one of those first steps that we go through is that process of footprinting or renaissance. All we are doing that here is just take a look around, and I would like to refer this process is kind of like a looky-loo. If you are not familiar with this term, let me give you a description in my way. It just so happens that if you are in a freeway driving down the road and there is an accident, on the other you can see the accident on the other side, but if you cannot see it yourself, so you are required to slow down to see if you can see what's going on there by slowing down the traffic on the opposite side, which is nothing but totally frustrating at some of the road rage or refer to these fogs. Doesn't you remember, you understand the network itself to do that a couple of different ways. So first way is to you can use a passive method. So if you remember, we previous lecture as well, a passive is just sniffing the airwaves and seems what is there is not, and the thing is we are not hitting anybody, we are not trying to connect with any access point, we are just looking on the airwave itself. Then we also have obviously active, which is obviously a little bit more intrusive. Maybe I send out a proper request to an SSID to see if an access point responds. Either way, accomplish footprinting, you are going to need a couple of things. So either you use your built-in Wi-Fi network cards or your laptops or your tablets. Now there is some limitation to this. It is based off of where referred to the chipset, and for the manufacturer, which we will talk about a little bit later, the limitation of built Wi-Fi. So it's not a very direction, it's like a 360 degree from a laptop itself, where I can start using external antennas to start pointing like a remembering antenna. I can hook that up with a Wi-Fi card and start pointing in different direction. And the other thing is that I'm going to need here is obviously an application. And yes, as you see, you get the word from this lecture, you some of these desktop application and some of the newer one actually based of the mobile. So some of the more common desktop application include Insider, which is an open source multi-platform Wi-Fi scanning software, and it will give you the attacker information such as proper channeling of wireless networks, signal strength, if the access point is filtered, and of course we can export the Wi-Fi GPS data out of an XML file that can use the Insider of a Google Earth. And another product that out is the called Net Server, that is again a network discovery tool that used to find the wireless access points in real time. This is a bit more GUI or GUI, as far as this interface concerned, it's a little prettier. There is also this beast tumbler, which does the same thing by looking for the access points, so that we can export the information, and the information in the imported in a Google Earth, so we can look for the signal strength. This product actually got its name when Microsoft released a correlating server tool, which would have been served at 08. So they had a new and net SAS command that called google.net, and this requires the DSID, and it uses that command to get all the wireless information. And google.net is one of my favorite ones. In fact, I'll show you a little bit about this google.net future lectures. So google.net is an open platform that also uses a website for collecting information about different wireless hotspots around the world. It actually started back in 2000, and by 2013 they had over 170 million recorded Wi-Fi networks in its database, and other one similar like 107 million, and 105 has GPS coordinates. We also have something called Kismet. Kismet is a layer 2 wireless network, detects sniffer and ID's environment. There are also Ice Tumbler. This is the final one. This is actually a discovery tool that provides the plugin for finding not only access point but also Bluetooth devices, location information, and Mac devices. So they have a mobile version is called Mini Tumbler, and that uses to run in the old way. So I'm going to bring back some of the memories here. Maybe remember the iPad by HP, one of the fast and real old devices. And speaking of mobile, we have a couple of different products both in the Android side and on the Apple side as well. So we have a Wi-Fi manager as well as Wi-Fi fun insert as a. So there is also network signal info. There is a Wi-Fi radar, as well as there is a mini tumbler and the Wi-Fi analyzer tool, and I'm sure there is probably even more since the recording of this. So it's like they are coming out dailies now. So it's at least 2 of these 3 things. So again, remember some types of antenna, either the built-in one or external one. It's a piece of hardware that we can look at it. So I'm sure this is the final topic. So sure everyone is familiar with GPS or global positioning system. So this is a very old satellite that uses in space, right? And they help to determine where we are located or where something is located. Well, taking this technology along with the wireless technology, we can actually go and look at the star mapping and look at some of the networks that either we can remember for ourselves or share with others. Now again, GPS receiver gonna just simply go through and calculate position, time, velocity to help pinpoint where the network is located. Now some of the tools that we can use for is includes wiggle.net that we already mentioned, and I'm going to show you some of the wiggles in future. So there is a Wiggle and have a Skyhook, and Skyhook is a very big data company that based out of Boston, and originally they were started up a database for gathering access points for wardrobing folks. Since they have gone up to the provided location-based services for companies like Apple, Samsung, and HP, Dell, and almost any other mapping products out there that like MapQuest. And some of these concepts are this application come around from the aspect of marketing. For example, when you walk into a local retail store, maybe Skyhook has determined via your Samsung device that you are at a local, so you market and go and you get an ad from that butcher. But again, using this technology for evil, we can accomplish some interesting things. We can also have something called Wi-Fi, and so we find it a little bit simple problem that helps you to find the Wi-Fi hotspots. So you can either install it or search it out hotspot near you. You can send out the information out their database. So you can also type an address where we are going to go to see if any Wi-Fi is going to available there for you as well. So this is the all basic summary of the GPS mapping and how it works. So in this lecture we are going to be focused on wireless structure, wireless components, wireless setting, and wireless hacking. So wireless became a most popular right now, and even in our homes we all are using wireless. So it's not for just for business use or business need only, it became also a personal need. Now wireless, this is to connect some computers together and to able to work in a network, to connect through the internet or use shared devices. But there is some clarification that we need to do as a beginning of this. So now think about it. When it comes to the wireless, that send you information in air and it broadcasts the information. It's not like wire to ear information is sent over the wire. In this case, your information is sent over the air wireless that are using radio waves and regular waves. As this is only a very complicated issue that you need to like to verify when you work on wireless, or when people try to do something like penetration testing on wireless, because it may cause some legal problem that has different frequency. The specific frequency in regular wave is called the analysis frequency, and this is where we should, or this is where we all our devices is licensed frequency, and you can check the approved analysis frequency and the frequency that is that you can use without getting a permission from the authenticity. So if we go to this ITU with this organization website that actually identify or explain what is the unlicensed frequency on each country. So my point is beginning of that is you should not be going and playing with frequency, and this is kind of a thing unless you are aware of that what is legal and what is illegal. And in this lecture we are only going to focus about the legal part. We will not pose you any kind of problems, so that's why we are like to focus on the legal part. Now wireless, it's very effective right now, and because think about it, when you are talking about effectiveness and when you have a wireless network, this is actually more easier than use a wire network. So environment network that we can move, and we can also stuck to a cable, or we don't need to sit in a specific place where there is a cable. So in wireless everything is much more easier, besides all the new devices that we right now having built-in wireless adapter. So you don't need to install anything. When you get a smartphone, you can connect with it with a RG45 cable connector, and it has a built-in wireless that don't support any wire network. Even most of the new laptops right now don't even have a wire network. So it seems that we are going to need to upgrade all to the wireless. Now in the next lecture we will be explaining what is the wireless component, and I let you build a small wireless network that, and to know what is setting and what you need to be done on a wireless, because when you understand the setting you will understand what is its weakness. So in this next lecture we are going to explain the wireless component and how to build a wireless network. So now in this video we are going to explain the Wi-Fi LAN component, so wireless component. So now if you decide to implement a wireless network, what exactly do you need? So you are gonna need a client. So this could be a laptop that has a wireless network adapter, or a mobile or a tab that has a personal computer who is a wireless network. So you need a client, and also you are gonna need a wireless router where this wire is routed, and that will be connected to the internet, and that will transfer traffic to the wireless. And you are gonna also need an access point in case you have a big network and you need to be covered, and you cannot be covered to just one wireless network. In most of the cases in our home we just have one device acting as a wireless router as an access point. Now assume that you decide to build a wireless LAN at home. So you went and you bought a wireless router and you need to configure this router. So in this lecture I am going to show you the configuration of the basic method that of the client. So no configuration will be needed. So you just need to connect to the wireless network. So you just scan and connect to the wireless network, but all the settings will be done on the wireless router, so sometimes referred to as access point. So you can do that yourself using one of the simulator that I am going to share or talk about you, so which is Cisco Packet Tracker. Just search Cisco Packet Tracker. So just download this, and this will be like this application or software. So packet tracker is similar to that, allow you to benefit the network wired and wireless and a different kind of component, but on this lecture we are going to focus on wireless and what is the setting that need to be done on a wireless network and what are the weaknesses. I mean, in my point here to show you how to build a wireless network. So to show you that, the first problem we have is wireless network on a proper setting. So most people, especially at home, are just plug and play. They do not put the right setting on the wireless router or their access point, and by doing that anyone can hack to their wireless setup. So if someone had your wireless network, it's not just he will be able to access the internet through your network, he don't have to pay anything, but actually it's like you are getting an intruder inside your home or inside your organization. He can connect to all of the machines that are connected to this network. He can see what are those machines, like mobile or computer or PCs or laptops, anything. So it's like when someone cracks your password, your wireless password will compromise, and your power wireless network is like getting an intruder inside your house or inside your organization. So let me show you the setting what is to be done, and let me show you what this is the proper configuration. So if you open this Cisco Tracker and download and install first, it's quite easy. And this program you will find that we have a wireless router in here. So just click a wireless router, then take like a laptop. So let me take a laptop. So to see what configuration we wish to do when we should do on a wireless router. So when you go and buy the wireless router, you can connect to the wireless router using the web or using the program later on. So I will be talking about that in the future to show you how to connect your wireless router setting using the web. So once you connect the wireless, you will get a similar screen. Maybe option will be in different places or different like interfaces, but it should be on nearly similar on everywhere. Any wireless router should have this same option. So if you go to any configuration, as you can see, there is a lots of like display name, host name, or any of the static configuration that you want to do, or running configuration. So this is when you scan a network. So if you check the routing static IP, you have to, like as you can see, set the network or mask, and these are all the command equivalent. So all you'll be doing in here, it will be all commanded in here. So it's a very nice little easier graphical interface. Also you can see VLAN database, you will add or remove any VLAN database that you want in here. Then the interface, as you can see, you can select your MAC address in here, your IP address, subnet, mask, and etc. etc. You can choose any of these as you want. So you have two settings. Then the one have this one, configure the console. So it's better to use to configure VLAN from a config mode, because database is being deprecated, and also you can check on all of those. So all types of things are in there. So as you can see, you can choose any of this card feature, or single port serial, or even a dual connection. So you can choose or customize an icon in a physical view. You can choose an icon, you can customize the logical view. So that's the basic thing about the router. And from the laptop, so what you can do is you can just check configuration setting that you want to, like what you want your gateway to static or DHP, or gateway IPv6 is your static. You can check and give your IP6 password. Then your algorithm setting is better to give it a global. Then also your user interface, as you can see, similarly like router, you can give your local IP address. You can type IP address or static. Most of us use static, but you can also use DHCP. So all those settings that are in here. And also you can choose your IP configuration. As you can see, you can choose any IP configuration in here, and you can choose. So as you can see, if you want to be a dial-up modem, you can use it in here, but you need to be connected. And also web browser, as you can see, you can check all of these settings here. PC wireless, as you can see, it says that PC wireless interface is required, because I don't have it, that's why it's showing in here. You can get your traffic generator in here, so you can get ping, DNS, any of these things that you want, even for HTTPS, FTP, all of those source IDs. And even you can select auto port. Then you can even configure your mail using these, and PPOP dialer. So this is the username and password that you will connect in the wireless router. So this is the main user and password. So it's better to, you can use it in here. And also you can use, this is the IPv4 firewall, and this is the IPv6 firewall. So if you can set up your firewall, all of those from here. So as you can see, there's a lots of settings that you can feel. Also you can just I don't think I can click this in here. So as you can see, cannot remove a module when the power is on. So you have to turn off your power module. So that's the all of the setting you need to do to get a proper router setting. So finally, the one good thing that you should consider to set is when you assign an SSID and configure all devices or like laptop, smartphone or everything that has been configurable, it will be recommend to go and disable the speaking. So usually when you open your wireless while listening you should find that under an option called SIG. It could be have a like different name, and could be an SSID, could be a broadcasting speaking SSID. So the same function that to disable all the on this. So one of the best practices is to always disable that once you finish configuring your client. So once all your client is connected, you can just start. Now in the second part, once you finish the basic proper setting, then from the wireless putting like SSID from all of those tools, wireless and router laptops, adjusting your configuration is better to do as previously. So how we can adjust all of those configuration in here. So do not keep the default password as it is. It's better to use a powerful key, and do not choose like web or WPA, because in the next lecture I'm going to show you how to break them and make sure it's applicable to have a read on your software. So one of the machine that it can be in different layer of authentication. So that's all about this lecture. Everyone, so in this lecture I will be talking about the packet sniffing using AeroDumpNG. So previously we talked about how we can have our setup like a Wi-Fi card and monitor mode. Now we will sniff all the packets that are within our Wi-Fi range, even though they are not directed to our device, and even without connecting to any network, even without knowing the password or the username of the network. So what tool we are going to use? So we are going to use a tool called AeroDumpNG, and it is a part of the aircraft unit. So it's a packet sniffer which allows us to capture all the packets around us, so we can run it against all the network that are around us. So we'll collect any packets that are within our Wi-Fi range, or we can just run it against a certain IP or access point. Then we will be able to collect the packets that are coming from a certain Wi-Fi network. So we'll describe how this works. First, what you have to do is you need your Wi-Fi card in monitor mode. So because I already have my Wi-Fi card on my monitor mode, then you will just run a simple command, which is this one, AeroDumpNG and mon-o. So it is just a simple code, and after typing this code, the name of the Wi-Fi card that has been enabled on it will be monitored. As you can see, it's starting to list all the network that are around us. So another use of AeroDumpNG is to identify all the network around us and to identify all the connected devices to these networks. And I'm just gonna it will continue to run, so you have to stop it. So how can you stop? You just press Ctrl+C on your Linux machine and it will stop this from running. Now I will take a quick look. Now all the facts that we are sniffed, now we didn't save them anywhere, so there was really no point to analyze in the packet because we are just run it against all the access point around us to see what networks are that are around and what and how they are gathering information about these networks. So you can see that there is quite a good bit of information around me, and the BSS ID is the MAC address for this access point. So these are the MAC address of this point ESS ID. Column is the power of the column is the power in the power. So it's how far the access point from our Wi-Fi card. So you can see the test IP. This is, so you can see BSS ID, you can see power, you can see beacon, data, and cheaper authorization and ESS ID, all of this in here. So there is a test router that we are running, because as you can see this is the test router. So it's very close to me and it's like -34, as you can see. So you can see you can go down on the network that are farther and farther away from me. So the closest the network, the easiest for you to set the sniff and packet, and because obviously you are closer and the packets are that can be collected easier. Also all the attacks that you are gonna explain, we're gonna explain in the future. The closer the network to you, the more effective the network and the attack will be, and it will be also quicker. So you will gain your access and achieve your goal beacon. So beacon is the signal. So because the network that I am here, I have my BSS ID to be like this, and I am running on this information. So this is the number of beacons, and that each exit point is sending the data in the number of useful point that we have sniff, and we will talk about this later when we start talking about web decrypting and web encryption. So we will just leave this for now, and is the number of packet that we have collected in the past 10 seconds. So as you can see we have 0 in here. So 0 data packet in past 10 second channel is the number of channel that the access point is broadcasting on. So each access point broadcast on a certain channel, and this is used to because there is no interface between access point and there are also besides each other. So say for example I have an access point, and so here 20 beacon like 5 meters away from me. So there is another access point. So if both of them are running on the same channel, and there will be interface between these two access point, and the signal between them will be shorter. So the range of this access point will be shorter. So with different channels, so that there is no interface between the packets that are sent in the air. So MB, this is the maximum speed support by the access point. So it can go up like 54E is the encryption that used and the access point. So we see the encryption here as ENC. So here is WEP, WPA2, as you can see WEP, WPA2, and you can see here is OEB again. So we have WPA here and WEB also in here. So it's an open network, and you will see an open when encryption cipher is decided for that. So choose to decrypt the packet. So for WIP it's web, and for WPA2 it can be CCMP. As you can see, for web it's web, and for WPA2 it will be CCMP, and it could be also TKIP as well. As you can see, from WPA it can be also TKIP. So we'll talk about this later when we get into the WPA cracking, then of the type of authentication that requires the access point. So we have pretty much all PSK shared key. So we have MGT. As you can see, for this we have MGT, and we will talk about this later as well when we go to WPA cracking. So now we'll talk about how to target those packet sniffing using AeroDump NG. So previously we saw how to use AeroDump NG to see all the network that are within our Wi-Fi range and collect the information about those network, such as BSS ID and the channel, and the distance between us and the access point, the encryption that I use it in, and so on. And now what we'll do is we will see eventually, and we will see a certain network that we want to target, or number of network that we want to target. So once we have our target selected, it's more useful to run AeroDump NG on that network. So instead of running it with all the network around us, in this lecture we will talk about how to use that to sniff a specific network. So what you have to do now is you have to type this code in the terminal, so that as you can see, I am going to target this machine. So that's my home network, and that's and I am going to start sniffing on that network instead of sniffing all the network that are around me. So we are going to use the same program to use this. So first what you have to do is you have to use code AeroDump NG, and then we are going to specify the channel. So specify the BSS ID, as you can see, and the MAC address, and the target network, and the write test. So write option, this tells arrow to dump engine in the log, and then all the packets will be captured in this file and name. So I am going to call it test UTP. This is the file name, and then we put the name of our Wi-Fi card, which is Mon0. So same as the program that we used before. So we put the channel of the target that access the point, and BSS ID that will put the MAC address of the target access point. So we put the file name that we want all those packets to get started, and we want to have 10, and the name of Wi-Fi card and monitor mode. So if you just type this and press enter, you will see something like this. As you can see, the only network that shows up in here is this one. So we don't have any other network with us, so which can have a look in this section. So in the previous lecture we had too many networks that we had connected around me. Now we had only one section in AeroDump engine. The section was missing here in the second section in here. because previously we only saw this part. In here it is only one, but previously we saw many of them, as you can see many of them. So the first section, as we saw, that contain all the access point that are within our Wi-Fi range, and this section in here, the second section, contains all the clients that are associated with the access point in here. So this is not the network, this is a client, so it's connected to the network. We know that because we have the BSS ID. So does the MAC address of the network that is client to connected. So to MAC address connected to the MAC address here, which is the same as the MAC address. So that means that client is connected to the network. Now this is the station, is the MAC address of the client. So this is the MAC address of the device that is connected to the network power. As you can see, this is connected to the network power, and the distance between us and the device rate is maximum speed. And the device is running on. So last, the number of packets that we lost. We lost including capture from the target device. So the frames of the numbers or numbers of useful packets, so we collected from that device, that will talk into the this network. So we'll talk more about the frames and data in future. So as I said, when I start talking about web cracking, so we just have to show you now the two main parts. So the first mini part of this access point that are within our Wi-Fi range. The second part of this arrow dump. Then second, which is the client that are associated. So with this access point, we have the MAC address. That are of the access point, and the market address that are actual client in here. So if you just, this will continue running, so this will continue running. So what you have to do, you have to cancel this by Control C. So when you cancel this, this will save all of this, and this will save the log into a file named as test UPC. So what you can do is, you can list all of those test UPC. As you can see, this is the file that saved, that arrow down created. So what you can see that there are lots of file, 1 2 3 4 5 1 2 3 4 file. So there is a file that has different extension, like a couple of them has cap, CSV, and one of them has Kismet.net XML. So if you go to your home directory where you save this, test file, you will see all of those files in your directory. So what you can do now is, you can after that you can see where those routers are. So we can sniff those packets, and we can use a program such as you all remember, Wireshark. We can use Wireshark to analyze those packets and see the information that we gather in here. The problem is that the net specific network is that WPA encryption. So all the packets that are encrypted are in here, and we want to be able to decrypt them unless we have the key. So we'll talk about in the future how we collect the key in the future lectures. So if you want to test those files on Wireshark, you can do that, but they will not show you many information of those files because they are WPA connected. So that's how you use a specific or targeted packet to sniff using arrow dump command, arrow dump ng. So in this lecture we are going to be talking about the pre-connection attacks. So previously, as you know, you already know, I think, how to install Kali Linux and all of this, because we are gonna use Kali Linux. And if you don't know how to install Kali Linux, just a simple Google search will get you all the results. It's pretty easy. So just install Kali Linux on your virtual machine, or you can use any machine, that doesn't matter. So in this lecture we are going to dive into straight hacking. So it's going to be a basic section or basic lecture. So we are going to visit some basics that you already know, and I'm going to show you how to extend it and build up the information that you know. For example, I'm going to show you how to change your MAC address manually, so you will be able to change the MAC or any device that support that, and without the need of any optional tools. You will use it in a simple couple of commands and it will be changed. And I will show you how to extend all the pre-connection attacks so that you can target networks and clients that use like 5 gigahertz etc. And see, finally you are going to extend the authentication attacks, and so you will be able to run it against multiple devices and multiple network all at the same time. Not only that, but you will be able to target all devices and all networks around you and manage all of this connection and control them. So throughout this lecture I am going to be using Kali Linux machine as my hacker machine, and it's going to be installed as my virtual machine. As you can see, you can install it as a main machine, that doesn't really matter. And whatever or whenever I run the wireless attack, I am going to be using a wireless adapter, because my PC is connected on a direct Wi-Fi network, as you can see in here. So I am going to use a wireless network. So if you have a LAN network, then as you can see, you can find those LAN network. You will be seeing those LAN network under this one here. As you can see, Ethernet, this one is mine. So now I previously talked or described or demonstrate how to use Kali Linux and connect a wireless adapter, and in general it's pretty easy, and I think you already know how to do that. So let's go to now this virtual machine, and now we'll bypass the blacklist or whitelist and how to hide your identity by changing your MAC address, and we'll see how to do that using a tool. So in this video I want to show you this way without any tool that can change your MAC address within this command. So this method we are going to be talking about doesn't need any program to be installed on the system. You can use it in a native ifconfig in your Linux machine. As you can see, I have already done this. So first you just type ifconfig, it will give you all the network, connected network, and this is my connected network. As you can see in my MAC address, as you can see, my previously my MAC address was this. So what you have to do now is you have to configure this MAC address, and you want to change this MAC address, and then what you have to do is you have to put this interface down. So just typing this down, it will disconnect your disable your network from this machine. So after that you just type this ITH0, this one is my this connection network, and just type HW ether, and this is for the right. So we have given it the interface that we want to modify its properties, and we are going to tell that we want to change this hardware, and we want to change the value of the ether property. So you can see that MAC address is shown up in here as ether, so we will change this ether. So I want to change this ether, and we want to set the MAC address, right? So you can just type any MAC address that you want. So I will type a random one. So after just typing this, just and press enter, as you can see it will not show any problem. Then after that, what you have to do now, as your internet is down, you cannot check your MAC address. So what you have to do now is you have to up your internet or up your network connection in this machine. So just type up, as you can see, if config UTH0 up, and it will be all up and connected. So after that, just type ifconfig to check the IP address again. As you can see, my IP or my MAC address or ether address is already been changed to this one, which previously was this one. So as you can see, it's pretty easy, and you can do it manually with just a couple of command line. And you can use it on a different Linux system, or so you can also use this on a Mac changer and optional software, which is you have to use a little bit more steps, but I think this is pretty easy to change within the command line. As you can see, it's just only one line that you have to type to change this MAC address. So without installing any optional software, you can just do it this in natively. And so that's all about how you can change your MAC address in here on command line. So for everything we have done, we didn't need to connect to any network to do it. So the good thing about connecting to a network is that you will be able to launch more powerful attacks and get more accurate info when you connect to it. Now if the network doesn't use encryption, so if it's an open wireless network, you can go ahead and connect to it, and then you can escape, so you can sleep on encrypted data. So if the network is a wired network, then you can connect to it using your wire, or you can try after you connect to it with the wire. Maybe you need to change your MAC address to something else so that you can connect to the main problem. But the problem is that if the network uses encryption such as web WPA or WPA2, we have seen if we try to sniff the data and the data will be encrypted, and if we want to decrypt it, then we need to know the key, and if we know the key, then we can just connect the data and that will be encrypted. Anyway, that's the main purpose of this lecture, is that if you target your network that uses some sort of encryption and you cannot really do anything more now unless you decrypt or find the key, so that you can decrypt the data and connect to the network. So we're going to talk about how to decrypt web WPA or WPA encryption. So the first encryption that we are going to talk about is WEP or web cracking or web breaking. It is going to be a web encryption because it's the oldest one, is the easiest one to break, but we still don't know or still need to learn how to break it, because you will see networks that still use web application with encryption uses an algorithm called RC4. Each packet is encrypted at the access point and then it's sent to the air. So once the client receives it, since the client has the key, it will be able to decrypt the packet and read the information that are all inside. So very simple. Apply the IP encrypt on the packets and send it to the client to receive it. Then the client has the key, so the client then decrypts it. Same way, when the client sends the packet, it encrypts it and decrypt it and send it to the air. The cog and the access point then receives it. The access point has the key, so it will decrypt the package. So each packet I sent into the air has a unique key stream and ensures that the key stream is unique using a 24-bit initializing vector. So the initializing vector is a random number. It's sent into the packet and it's sent into a plain text. So this part is not encrypted. So if you read a packet and you'll be able to read it a plain text. But the problem with this is the IP or the initialization is very short. It's just 24-bit and it's not that long. So in a busy network, there will be a very large number of packets that are sent into the air. This means the number of possibilities of random IPs will be exhausted, and we will have two packets that have the same initializing vector. So the initializing vector is 24-bit random key. It's sent into the air in each packet and it sends into a plain text as a plain text in a busy network. So we are going to have a very large number of packets. This means that the possibilities of unique IPs will be exhausted, and then we will be able to sniffing this all those packets, and we will be able to collect those packets who have the same initializing vector. So once we have two packets and they have the same initializing vector, and then it will be use a statistical attack to determine the key stream, and after that it will be determine the web key. Okay, so from the above we know that the more IPs are initialization vector that we collect, the more likely that we will be successfully to crack the web key. So our main goal when we try to crack web is to collect as much as IPs as we can, because once we have a large number of IPs, then we are going to have like two packets, then we will use the same IPs, then it sends the air to crack the packet, and which is more likely able to determine the key stream and the web key for the targeted network. Now one of the major obstacles that you might find while trying to gain access to a network is if the network does not broadcast its name. So if the network is hidden, that you want to be able to connect to that network, even it does not use any network, you cannot connect because the network is hidden. So if it uses a password, then you want to be able to use the attack that we are going to talk about in the future lectures. So you literally want to be able to do anything and until you know the name of the network. So just for an example, like if you have a network and you set it as a hidden and you check that box SSD mask, so this could be called something else for you again. So So if you set your that network as a name, then it doesn't actually broadcast the name in the air. So I also said the network does not use any security, so people can connect as long as the network has their name. So if you go and check out my Windows, as you can see, all of them uses a password protector. So I can really test that without password on. So as you can see, all of those are in password protected. So if it's using a password for the network, then we want to be able to launch this attack. Then if we don't know the name, so if you cannot target and target is hidden, the first step is always try to determine the name of the network regardless of whether it uses encryption. So if it uses a password or if it does not use a password. So in this lecture I am going to cover how to determine the name of the hidden network and how to connect to the network. Now I am going to test that. I also previously described this. So what you have to do now is you have to use our command use dump engine. So put your name in the wireless CAN, then just hit enter, then this page will come up. Then you can see the hidden network that are around us, so which is this one. As you can see, this is the open network. So you can see that we can actually get the all the information of the network, and we can get the MAC address. So we can see its distances, we can see beacons, we can see distance, beacons, data, and if there is a lot of data, then we can see the encryption. As you can see, most of them are WPA2 and couple of them are open. So you will see it uses WPA or whatever. So the only thing that is name of the internet. So you can see here this one. So basically when a network is configured to be hidden, it only hiddens the network name, but it is still broadcast. So it broadcast is existent, and I am telling all the differences around it, that I exist, my MAC address, and this is the ESID, and it, as you can see, it also has MAC address. So it given all the information except the name. And basically what I am saying, and if you know that, if you see your network name, you can connect. So we are going to do is, now we are going to run this dump engine, and because that's our target. So basically we already done this previously, how we can do this. Please go check that out. I already described all of this detail. So what you're gonna do is, you're gonna run the dump engine, and you're gonna specify a BSS ID of the targeted network, which is like a MAC address. Then you're gonna specify a channel, then the target network, then give it a wireless card in monitor mode, which is 10. So as you can see, there are a lot of aerodynamic. So we are giving it a MAC address. So it is in monitor mode, and as you can see, this is running on against a specific network, this network. So in many cases, if the target network is big active, you will see that you will be able to get the name of it simply by running a aerodam ng against it. So in our case, we can see that the network is not active, but it is open, but it is not active. So it will not be able to determine its name. But what we can do also is to see, we can see there is a client connected to the network right here, because as we said the second lecture, that aerodump and ng shows us the connection or connected devices. So we can see that there is a device connected to this network and the device has MAC address. So what we are going to do is now we are going to use authentication attack, and what we did like before, we are going to disconnect this device and from this network, but we are going to actually disconnect it very short period of time, then it automatically reconnects on the target network. So what it does is it's going to send the network name in the air, since we have like aerodump engine running, and it will be able to capture the name and it will show us here the name, and it will tell us that we note the name as a network. So again, the attack is very simple. All you're gonna do is we are gonna type this command or this line, just airplay ng, just type this, and this would be your connected machine and the MAC address. So we will be able to capture the name and we will be know the network name. So just type this and press enter, and it will be a chance. So what you're gonna do is then MAC address, give you the MAC address, then do -C, and then give you the MAC address of the client that I want to disconnect, and finally name of the wireless card that you want, and after that this one is the one which is on the monitor mode, and specify the authentication packet, which is a really big number in here. So we're gonna keep the target computer disconnected for as long as possible. So in this discussion, we actually want them to disconnect for a split second, so we use this as 4 packets. So usually 2 is sufficient, but I'm just going to use 4 just to make sure that target device is still get disconnected. So it's a little, because we are using a very small number, and it will be disconnected for a very short period of time, and the target person who is using the network will not even feel that. So the same command that we did before, nothing different, like airplay. We are doing a deal authentication attack, and we are using a very small number of packet in here, because we don't want to target the person to feel that they got disconnected, because if you disconnect it for a couple of minutes, then they will notice that it's disconnected. So it's better to use a small. Then we give the MAC address of the target network, then after this option, after a option, then the MAC address of the client, then I have to disconnect. So after that, just you press enter, and also you have to type your network monitor machine. So just type enter, then and it will show you the network. As you can see, it is the test. This is the network name. As you can see, previously it was 0, means it doesn't have any network name to show. So now, as you can see, it shows the network name. So aerodump ng is still not that so now if the network is open, like in our case, we can actually go ahead and connect to that network, or if the network is using an encryption like WPA or WPA2, then we actually know the name of the network now, and you will be able to launch the attack. And you are going to learn in the next lecture that against that network and determines its key. So the attack was very simple. All you had to do is run a dump ng against our dump ng command or dump ng function attack against our specific targeted network, and then the authenticated one of the client that very short period of time, like in 4 packets, and then they will automatically get connected to the network. And what they do is they will know its network name by using this method. So now let me show you how to connect to a hidden network, because the process is a bit different than connecting to a normal network. The main thing is that since I was using a dump ng and I put my wireless CAN 8 monitor mode, so if I go and try to connect, nothing will gonna be happen, because and I am in monitor mode. So I won't even be able to discover the hidden network, because as we said before, you cannot connect to the network when you are in monitor mode. Monitor mode is only used if we want to capture packets that are not sent to us. So it cannot associate it with the specific network. So to connect a network, we need to be in the manage mode, which is the default mode. So you can just put your card back in the manage mode, or you can just restart your Linux and it will all be in a default mode. So what you have to do now is you have to as you can see in here, you have to connect to a hidden network. So what you're gonna do, go to the setting and click on a application. Firstly you have to go to a Linux machine. So when you go to your Linux machine, it will show up here all the system setting. So after giving all the system setting, and you will go to the application and Wi-Fi setting, and as you can see in Wi-Fi setting, in the lower end in here, as you can see, connect to a hidden network. You can connect to this hidden network, which is name is test_ap. You can connect this into your hidden network. So just press the connect to hidden network, and then this page will show up. So it's gonna ask me to put the security, put the connection and Wi-Fi security in this here. So in this connection we will set it as new, and in this network name, as we set it as test_ap, because our hidden network name is test_ap. So we just put it in here, and you can select your Wi-Fi setting like as web or WP or WPA2, then you can specify it in here. But as we are in a hidden network and our security is none, so we will just select this as none. So if you just press connect in here, then I managed to connect to this network. As you can see, this is an active on test_ap. So if we go to the setting now, this network actually does not have internet connection, because that's why there is a very low data going in when this was in here. As you can see, very low data. So if you go to this connection setting, but as you can see, I am connected to this network and I have a good signal strength. I have got like my IP address and the default gateway, and our link speed, as you can see, pretty decent. Our IP4 address, IP6 address, our hardware access, and our main root address. So I can do anything I want now on the network because I am fully connected to it. So when it comes to connecting to a network, you need to just keep in mind that your wireless card has to be in a default mode, means manage mode, not in monitor mode. That was previously in here. So as we were working in here, it was in monitor mode. That's because because of that we can monitor this, because if it was in default mode or manage mode, you cannot do this. So that's why it has to be in monitor mode, and in this it has to be in default or manage mode. Then you can come back and connect to the hidden network. Put the network name, then you will be able to connect. As I said, hidden network can make a major obstacle, because if the network is open, you won't be able to connect. So if the network is using a password, then you can even start doing the attacks that we are going to talk about until now. So the name of the network is the must. You must have to know this. So the first step is always, as I previously told you many times, you need to know the name of the attack, name of the network. Disruptive attacks that are that can be affect to performance a wireless network. Even though client usually don't like to perform tests that can affect the performance of a network, it is still important to perform those attacks to understand the impact and attacker that could cause the network. So previously we talked or try to perform some techniques using malicious hacker that would perform. So in this lecture we will be covering two main types of attack. The first type is the man in the middle, which is to intercept and multiply traffic of the user, and the second type that we are going to use is denial of service attack, and there are several techniques that can be used to fully disconnect someone from a wireless name. So the man in the middle, as their name this suggests, is an attack where we force someone traffic to go through a machine. So we can just have that traffic and just modify as we want. So you may be familiar with some of the main man in the middle techniques, such as, like as example, air poisoning, then some are like wireless, then penetration testing, that will be focusing on a wireless technique to perform man in the middle. So for their attack, this will be using our like online rough access point to intercept the traffic. The idea is intersecting and if dropping the traffic to capture some sensitive data, but we can also use it to block access to specific some resources. For example, to block a user from accessing their mail, or even inject and modify the traffic. So if you really want to get accesses on your testing, you can use this, such as beef to inject malicious JavaScript into HTTP traffic, etc. like this. The step by step of the attack consists in first creating the rogue access point. As we saw in our previous lectures, connecting the rogue access point is a real network to a real network. How we can use this? So we previously described it. So the user then connect to the rogue access point to a real network, then it drop the traffic with like Wireshark, then it wait for user to, before the Wireshark they wait for user to connect. And if you want to modify and inject packet using like two searches, which is MIT MF, but that's optional. So let's talk about non-disruptive types of attack. So what is non-disruptive? So I mean This is the attack that does not affect the user and that are already connected to their component network, and that takes mainly user to connect to different network. But this will not cause denial service of attack because this is a wireless connection. So the attack covering like non-disturbing attack covering mostly, which is like eavesdropping, to which mainly does is listening to the traffic and trying to capture sensitive information such as password or cookies. The rogue access point is also known for like fake Wi-Fi's, which you then try to load user to connect, and free captive portals, and which you try to lure user to type their password and unveil their password. Pre-engagement phase is where it starts with a client that discover test and with a great timelines. It is important to make clear of the client so that the potential packets of the test get a formal proof of any of the testing service. So you will be performing to bring pre-engagement. Then I also previously talked about pre-engagement, but let's just describe it. So pre-engagement has 5 main goals, and here is this. The first one is already we talked about, which is define a scope, and we will be talking about in our next lectures as well. But basically you want to define what and who will be tested in this engagement. The second phase is related to the collective environment information. So in most cases the client will provide you a list of wireless network that they can try to be in scope, and at least of user that can be targeted. But in any cases, as do you remember that you are running your own reconnaissance technique, because in some cases system administrator may be not aware of some as a network in the environment. The third phase is scheduling the test, which is the name as says. It uses schedule a date and test to be performed with the client. The fourth phase is to communicate to stakeholders, which means it inform other affected parties about the upcoming test as a red teaming exercise that include test to a human behavior. So I recommend from only the very necessary people inside the client, for example in front of like CEO and one system administrator. That's because if everybody knows that test will be performed, people will be extra careful of this stage of the test. So we want people to be tested as a normal day. So the last phase is probably the most important, which is getting the client a formal sign off. The difference between a criminal and the professional is the document. So make sure you have it signed before you start any test, any types of test. To define the scope, we need to ask the client which areas of the company they want to be tested, which user can be targeted, how many days of the test we can perform the test, or any types of or any kinds of attack that will be performed. Some of the clients may not be willing to have their wireless network disrupted, so make sure you explain this impact in each of these attack. So the network the demonstrator will not be surprised if a user calls saying that the wireless network isn't stable right now. So as you can imagine, it is important to have a hope while define this user you are not passing. So any critical business areas of this company without any authorization is not suitable. So it's better to just get the permission and get a better idea about what is better for the company. An eavesdropping attack occurs when a hacker intercepts, delete or modify data that is transmitted between two devices. Eavesdropping, also known as sniffing or snooping, that relies on unsecure network communication to access data transmitted between the devices. To further explain the definition of an attack with eavesdropping, It typically occurs when a user connects to a network in which traffic is not secured or encrypted and sends sensitive business data to the colleague. The data is transmitted across an open network, which gives an attacker the opportunity to exploit a vulnerability and intercept it via the variable method. Eavesdropping attacks can also or often be difficult to spot. Unlike other forms of cyber attack, the presence of a bug or listening device may not be adversely affect the performance of a device and network. Technical eavesdropping on a traditional telephone line was known as wiretapping. Since then, method of eavesdropping has become even more advanced. In tandem with development in technology, hackers have had the chance to cultivate new methods and channels for eavesdropping on digital conversation. Protocol analyzers can also used to record IP-based communication and can convert data into easily accessible audio files. Data sniffing is another common type of electronic eavesdropping. This method is mostly used to target business using local network as all communication within the network that are sent to the network ports. Hackers can tap into the system and intercept incoming data. Similarly, wireless networking can be easily manipulated if unsecure information reaches the network ports. Arguably, the most common form of eavesdropping is conduct using a device speaker using function or microphone. These types of eavesdropping attack most commonly occurs via a user's laptop, as the microphone can be activated discreetly and remote by a third party. In summary, we can say that these types of false, fraudulent Wi-Fi network are created solely on the purpose of carrying out attacks. We will find them in busy areas where users will have need to be connected. Like public areas, we can name, for example, public areas as libraries, parks, universities, colleges. They are spaces where it is more important than likely they are in a Wi-Fi network available for free to the user. If an attacker goes into a library and creates a Wi-Fi network with the name of Wi-Fi library, the victim might not suspect that it is really a scam. Therefore, they play with this option to create a fake Wi-Fi network without raising suspicion. In addition, in this attack of places, they have more options that they are users who end up connecting to this and able to achieve their goal. Stations and airports. In this, we find ourselves before busy places by people. In addition to many places, an airport, for example, is a perfect place to create a fake Wi-Fi network and steal information. A Wi-Fi eavesdropping attack can be successful since it is more than likely that there are offline users on the mobile, like foreign tourists or people who are going to spend many hours on and want to work on their computer. These networks take advantage of these types of sites with a lot of traffic on people and where users may also need to connect to the network. Especially, it can happen that there are people who spend hours and even take the opportunity to buy the ticket or anything. Malls. Similar to the above the malls, there are malls. So there are spaces where there can be many people in the same places of time. Wi-Fi network are usually available, but sometimes they do not cover the entire surface of the signal when the signal is weak. This causes users to try other network that they find without encryption. That is the opportunity for cyber criminals. Perfect opportunity. The more problems users have, the more options there are that they end up connecting with a fake network that they have maliciously created to steal data. Work centers. On the other hand, work centers, they are also good place for them to deploy rogue network and carry out what is known as Wi-Fi eavesdropping. We especially talk about places where there are workers from different sections and companies. They may need a conversation or need a connection at a point and the network does not reach well, and then they look for a separate Wi-Fi and then connect it to the cyber criminals on. This eavesdropping scenario demonstrates how a worker eavesdrops the communication between two wireless nodes. It shows a snapshot of the eavesdropping demo. So, the network includes two users. I named them as Alice and Bob, an AP and a hacker who is John. The messages between two network nodes are represented by a small box. Text to so the sequence of the picture is like: first, John sets his NIC to promiscuous mode that allows John to capture packets between Alice and the AP. Alice then sends the message to the Bob. That packets are sent from the Alice to the AP and then it forwarded by the AP to Bob. John captures the message since it's NIC and is configured to promiscuous mode, and its radio is tuned to the communication channel between Alice and the AP. Bob sends a message back to the Alice and the packets are forwarded by the AP to Alice. John captures the message which sent by the AP to Alice. So that's how the usual process of it goes, how it does the eavesdropping. So that's all about the eavesdropping. A denial of service attack occurs when legitimate users are unable to access information system, device or network resources due to the action of a malicious cyber threat. So this service affected may include email, website, online accounts like banking or other services that rely on the affected computer or network. A denial of service condition is accomplished by flooding the target host or network with traffic until the target cannot respond or simply crashes, preventing access for legitimate users. DOS attacks can cost an organization both time and money while their resources and services are inaccessible. So, what are the common denial of service attack? There are many different methods of carrying out a DOS attack. The most common method of attack occurs when an attacker floods a network server with traffic. So, in this type of denial of service attack or DOS attack, the attacker sends several requests to the target server, overloading it with traffic, and these services requested are illegitimate and have fabricated return addresses which mislead the server when it tries to authenticate the request. As the junk requesters are processed constantly in server, the server will overwhelmed, which causes a DOS condition to legitimate request. So the first one is in a smurf attack. The attacker sends internet control message protocol broadcast the packets to a number of hosts within a spoofed source network protocol, which means IP addresses that belongs to the target machine. The recipient of this spoof package then will respond and the target host will be flooded with these responses. A SYN flood occurs when an attacker sends a request to the connect to the target server but does not complete the connection through. So what is known is there is a three-way connection or three-way handshake, a method that used in a transmission protocol, which means TCP or IP network, to create a connection between a local host or client server. The incomplete handshake leaves the connected port to an occupied status and unavailable for the further request. An attacker will continue to send requests saturating all open ports so that the legitimate users cannot connect. Individual networks may be affected by DOS attacks without being directly targeted. So if the networks are being service which means ISP, if the ISP or cloud service provider has been targeted and attacked, the network will also experience a loss of service. So let's talk about example of denial of service attack. So first one is ACK scan or SYN scan or FIN scan. So these techniques use similar approaches to check whether ports of the targets are open that can be exploited, and they also use to gather information as well as deny services. For example, the ACK scan technique is used to attacker to gather information about the target's firewall or access control list configuration. It features a scan via a target with an acknowledgement flag, which is mean ACK flag, that seeks to identify hosts and ports that are filtered or cannot be scanned in another way. Attacker watches the response from the router to understand the setup. The type of information that can be gleaned from this is particularly when combined with the SYN scan, as the target firewall or target type of firewall, it's a rule set and what kind of packets can get through the host. So at the same time, while collecting vulnerability information via scan, the attacker may also flood a router's open UDP or TCP port to make it crash. By initiating a connection attempt but not acknowledging the server response from the open port, then the attacker can keep the open port open and continuously flood the server with new requests, which is also known as SYN flood. The second one is Smurf. So in a Smurf attack, the malicious party will target a network whose configuration allow packets to be sent to all services or hosts on the network at once. This is accomplished by sending the ICMP packets to the IP broadcast addresses of the network whereby they reach the all computers. These packets will have as many as sources as the IP address on the target. So by default, the device of the network will then respond to the packet by replying to the spoof source address. This will also be flood the target machine with traffic and overload it or shut it down completely. There are few differences between Smurf and what we know as a ICMP flood or ping of death. And SYN flood, third one, also known as hub open attack. This is a technique that exploits the TCP or IP three-way handshake. During a SYN flood, an attacker repeatedly sends connection requests like SYN packets to all ports on the server. Typically, a server then responds with a synchronization acknowledgement packet or sync or ACK packet from every port that is open. If a port is closed, it will respond to and or reset a RST packet. Usually, a client responds to SYN or ACK packets with an acknowledgement packet during a handshake. This is done to confirm that it has received the server's sync or ACK, and then communicate between them. That can be comments. However, during a SYN flood, attackers use fake ID addresses to send the initial sync packets. As a result, the server never gets a response to its SYN or ACK packets, and its ports remain open, and it cannot reset them. Before the connection times out, further SYN packets are sent to those ports, prompting the server to keep them open and attempt to establish a connection. This is because ports are saturated with these requests, leading to a denial of service. Teardrop. The teardrop attack exploits a vulnerability associated with the older system and TCP or IP implementation with packets that are very large. For intermediary system like router, the IP specification allow packets fragmentation, then afterward fragmentation are reassembled. However, a TCP IP fragmentation reassembly bug can be found in many older systems. The bug consists of their inability to reassemble the packets whose offset field overlap. Attackers then exploit their bug by launching a teardrop attack by sending packets with overlapping and oversized payloads, making it impossible for the receiver to get the system to assemble them, or ultimately leading them to a crash. Also known as ARP spoofing or ARP attack, This technique involves sending ARP messages over a network to a link attacker MAC addresses to the IP addresses of its target. When this is executed successfully, the traffic intended to lead the target, which is instead to received by the attacker, then which leads to a denial of service. These types of attack can only be performed on a local area that use ARS. And the last one is Fragile attack. The Fragile attack, also known as UDP flood, uses the same approach as the Smurf attack by exploiting a vulnerability associated with the sending traffic to the IP broadcast address of the target, such as router. The main difference is that it uses a UDP traffic to flood a router or service instead of ICMP. The effect is to spoof the IP address of the source that get the request and then direct to the traffic from the network back to the router. Therefore, then it flooded all of it. Both the Fragile and the Smurf target attack have largely been left behind as router no longer forward packets sent to their broadcast addresses. So that's all about denial of service as example on a wireless network. So guys, in this lecture we will be talking about deauthentication attack, which is disconnect any internet from the network. So but first there are some things at first you need to do, like you need to put wireless interface into monitor mode, because in default your Linux machine or the attack machine which you will be performing, like Kali Linux. So Kali Linux in default, which is your wireless mode is in manage mode, then what you need to do is you need to put your wireless interface into monitor mode. So which is very simple. First what you need to do is press iw-config to see your list of wireless interface, and most of this wireless interface is set to manage by default, means that this device can only capture packets which have the destination MAC as the MAC address of the device, but our target is to capture all the packets that are within our range so that they are sent to the router or any other devices. So we need to set this mode to monitor mode instead of manage mode. So then before changing the mode of wireless interface, disable the network interface by simply typing ifconfig. This is the interface that you need to disable first. This interface may vary from machine to machine. Your interface may be like WLAN 1 or WLAN 0, so make sure you check yours. So disable that and run the command that will kill the process that could interface the changing the wireless interface into monitor mode. So this command airmon ng check kill will kill the processes, and then WLAN mode monitor will enable the monitor mode. So where WLAN 0 is the name of your wireless interface card. So as I said, it could be different, it could be WLAN 0. So let me show you later why this may vary. So put this will put this wireless interface into monitor mode, and after that again previously what we did is we did disable the network interface. Now we have to enable our network interface. So just type ifconfig WLAN 0 up and it will appear network interface, and it will give your wireless interface card into monitor mode, and then simply type iw-config, and as you can see it's now on monitor mode. Then there are another process. We need to start to capture or sniffing packets using arrow dump ng. So What is arrow-dump NG? So arrow-dump NG is a network software used for capturing or sniffing the packets in the air while you are in monitor mode. It is especially suitable for collecting web initialization vector, and it shows all the wireless networks that are around us, and it shows us the detailed information about those networks, and this tool is the basis of many hacking tools. So first, run the arrow-dump ng, and this is the interface of your wire network YLN0. So after running this command, it will discover all the network around me, and this program will continue running unless we quit, which is Ctrl C to quit. So as you can see, there are all of those wireless interfaces are running around me. So let's talk about what this is. So ESSID. ESSID is the name of wireless network that are around us. So this is the wireless name. BSSID is the MAC address of the target network. PWR. PW is the signal strength of the network. So higher network means we have a better signal. As you can see, the signal is very. So beacons are frames which are sent by the network in order to broadcast its existence. Data is the number of data packets. /s is the number of data packets which are collected in the past 10 seconds. CH is the channel on which the network is working on. MB is the maximum speed supported by the network. ENC is the encryption used by the network such as WEP, WPA, WPA2 and Open. And authorization means AUTH, which is the authentication used on the network such as PHK, which is pre-shared key. So now what you need to do is you need to target my own network named OCN guest. So this I'll task this ACN guest. We will target this wireless network. Then simply type this command. So in this command BSSID, and this one is the MAC address of my target network. Channel 11 is the channel number of my target network. Write basis web is telling us to write or store all the gathered data in a file name called basic web. And YLN0 is the name of your wireless adapter, and this is the arrow-dump ng, which is the basic sniffing tool. Now after this it will show up like this. Now we have a file name like basic web 01 which contains the captured data, and arrow-dump ng automatically append the 01 with the file name, and there are multiple files created with different extension, but the main file is the basic web.cap which contains all the captured data. So this file contains every URLs, username, password, chat messages and all of those, but the main problem is that all the data is encrypted. So after sniffing process is done, then we will go to our final stage, which is deauthentication attack. Deauthentication attack is used to disconnect any device from any network. This attack can be used on any encrypted network such as web, WPA, WPA2. For this attack to work, you don't need to worry about network key. Also, there is no need to connect to the network. First, type previously that we typed, which is this one. Similarly, that we previously do. So that what did this as? It shows us the list of devices connected with the target network. So currently one network is connected, as you can see. So our goal is to disconnect this device from the connected or the internet. So the program will continue running, so don't stop the program until it completes. Also focus on the lost column, which is currently on 0, this one. Then what you need to do is you need to put up this comment. So aeroplay ng tool is used to launch the deauthentication attack, which will disconnect the device from the network or the internet. So let's talk about what this command is doing. So aerodump, this is the tool which will be using deauthentication. Minus deauth is the this is the command telling that I want to run deauthentication attack. 10,000 and 1000 is the number of deauthentication packet that I want to send, and I am just sending a large number of packet to the router and my target device, so it will disconnect my target device for a longer period of time. Then minus a, and this MAC address is the MAC address of the target network, and minus c, this one is the MAC address of the client side which I want to disconnect. So this MAC address is under the station column, as you can see, station column. And WLAN 0 is the name of a wireless adapter in monitor mode. So after running aeroplane ng, the device having MAC address which is 8, this one, will be disconnected from the internet, and lost column shows, and the lost column, as you can see, it shows the large number of lost packets. And then this happens and your attack is successful. You can just stop the program pressing Ctrl C from the keyboard, and your deauthentication attack is successful, and you disconnect the device, disconnect any device from the network using this aeroplay tool. So that's how it is. That's how this deauthentication attack works. Wired equivalent privacy, which in short is WEP, is a security protocol specified in the IEEE wireless fidelity standard 802.11b. Their standard is designed to provide a wireless local area network, means WLAN, with a level of security and privacy comparable to what is usually expected on a wired LAN. The WEP protocol was introduced in 1997 but was plagued by several security issues. Standard body began discouraging its use in the early 2000s as more effective standards were introduced. WEP attempted to limit the access to wireless network data in the same way that wired local network protect the data. Users with physical access to the network access point are the only one with a access with the wired network. So wireless network like Wi-Fi depend on encryption protocol like WEP to prevent unauthorized access to network data. So let's talk about web cracking. In order to crack web, we first need to capture with large number of packets. That means we can capture a large number of IVs. Once we have done that, we will use a tool called aircrack-ng. This tool will be available to use an statistical attack to determine the key stream and web key to all the target. You can use this tool on Kali Linux or any Linux distributor. It's a built-in tool, so you don't need to do anything. Just install Kali Linux and open terminal and just follow the process. This method is going to be better than what we have more for 2 packets, and our chances of breaking the key will be much higher. So let's look at the most basic case of cracking a web key. To do this, we will set Wi-Fi card in a monitor mode. After this, we will run a command, this command, aerodump ng. This is the our local network. So it will vary from machine to machine. It will vary, as you can see, this is WLAN 0. Maybe in your machine it will be WLAN 1 or LAN 1, LAN 0. So make sure you check your own machine's one. So just run this command to see all the network data within our Wi-Fi range, and then we will target one of those networks. when one line stands for the interface, the following output will be displayed by executing this command. So in this, the fourth network has come up with a Java T point on network. So this one, as you can see, web. So on this network, we are going to perform our attack, and we are going to run arrow dump against Java T point network by using the command like this command. So here we run arrow dump ng against the Java T network with a BSS ID, which is this, as you can see, BSS ID, this one. So this is the BSS ID, and we have included this minus channel number 11, and we add write to store all the packet that we capture into a file, which is web. After running the command, the following output will be like this. So this is a busy network data, and the data shows the number of useful packet that contains in a difficult IV, in different IV, and we can use it to crack the key. If the number is higher, then it is more likely to crack the key for us. So in this scenario, so we can see the client. As you can see, we can see the client all in here. So now we'll use just list, as we all know, just ls, type ls to list all of those. So we can see that we have a capture file, CSV file, that was specified in the write argument. Now we will launch aircake ng against the file that arrow dump has created for us. So we can launch aircake against it even if we didn't stop air dump. So it will continue be running, and we will also working on air dump, and our aircake ng will still be running in background. So it will keep reading the new package that arrow dump is capturing. So what you have to do now is use this command, aircake ng web. This is the saved file. So we are going to use this saved file to aircake. So make sure you open it in a new terminal, because we have to use this arrow dump on, which is continue to track the traffic. So make sure you use the new terminal to use this command and press enter. So when we use aircake ng, we will put the file name, which is the file name is the web02.cap. So if aircake fails to determine the key, aircake's waited until it reaches 5000 IVs and then tries again. So the thing is, you have to be patient. And web cracking or WPA or PA2, you in this cracking method, it's gonna take some time, hours and hours. So make sure you just be patient and just wait for the cracking to end. So we have to wait until the aircake can successfully crack the web key. So once it decrypt the key, we can just press Ctrl C to cancel the running window, because unless it will continue to crack, continue to running, continue to track the packets and etc. So just press Ctrl C to cancel the data pack. So as you can see in this final picture, aircake has successfully managed to get the key within these data packets. So we can see that the key is found. So we can connect to the target network, which is Java T point. As you can see, Java T point, your key is 12345. So we just need to copy the 12345 and paste it to connect to the Java T point. You can also connect using the key, which is like this one. This is the key. So in some cases we are not able to see the ASCII password. So many cases you will not see this, you will only see this. So at that time we can use key to connect the network. So do this, just copy this and remove the colon between the number, and just using 31, 32, 33, 34, 35 key, and you can connect to the Java T point. and that's all. Very easy to crack web cracking. That's why it's not recommended for many years previously, because it's too easy to crack the system that provided the web cracking. So that's how you do it. Wi-Fi protected access, which is WPA, is a security standard for computing device equipped with wireless network connections. WPA was developed by the Wi-Fi Alliance to provide more sophisticated data encryption and better user authentication than WEP and the original Wi-Fi security standard. WPA was initially released in 2003. The Wi-Fi Alliance defined WPA as response to serious weakness found in the WEP protocol. A more secure version, WPA2, was released in 2004. So in 2018, the Wi-Fi Alliance announced the release of WPA 3rd and the current version of WPA 3. So WPA works using discrete models and enterprise and personal use. The most recent enterprise mode, WPA to EAP, uses a strength A22 into 1x authentication. The latest personal mode, WPA to PSK, uses simultaneous authentication of equal, which is SAE, to create a secure handshake. So how can you hack WPA or WPA2 network? So Kali Linux can be used for many things, but it probably is best known for ability to penetration test or hack WPA and PA2 network. You can also hack using Kali Linux. There are hundreds of Windows applications that claim that they can hack WPA, but don't get them. They are just a scam used by professional hackers to lure newbie and wannabe hackers into getting hacked themselves. There is only one way to hack or hackers get into your network, and this is using a Linux based OS, a wireless card capable of monitoring mode, and a aircrack NG or similar. Also note that even with these tools, Wi-Fi cracking is not for beginners. Playing with it requires basic knowledge and how WPA authentication works, and moderate familiarity with Kali Linux and its tools. So let's begin with this hacking WPA or PA2 network. So first, you have to have a Kali Linux or similarly Linux, any Linux distributor. So just install it, and you have to have a must wireless adapter capable of injector or monitor mode. Some computers have network cards capable of or from this factory. So if you are most, however, you will have to buy a external one. A word list to attempt a crack the password once it's captured. So you need this, a word list, and the most important thing is time and patience. So some notice. So hacking into anyone's Wi-Fi without permission is considered an illegal act or crime in most countries. We are performing this for the sake of penetration testing, hacking to become more secure, and are using our own test network and not. So make sure you don't use other network to hack this. It is not advisable, and I do not support this to another machine for hacking purpose. So just go to your Linux terminal, plug in your capable wireless adapter. So if you are using Kali in VMware, then you might have to connect the card via the device menu. So then what you have to do is you just disconnect all the wireless network, as you can see. So open a terminal, so just type armon ng and it will disconnect all those wireless network on your Kali Linux. So then this will list all the connector wireless card, as you can see, WLAN 0. This is mine. So that supports monitoring mode. So if no card are listed, try disconnect and reconnect the adapter and check that if it support monitor mode. So if you are not using an external adapter and you still don't get anything listed, then your card doesn't support monitor mode and you will have to purchase an external one. Then what you have to do is just type armon-ng start your. This will vary from machine to machine, so make sure check yours and type not this one, make sure you type yours. So it may be like LAN 0, LAN 1, it may be different, so make sure you type the connected one, otherwise it will show error. So just type armon-ng start and followed by the interface name of your wireless card. So mine is YLAN 0, so my command would be like this. The monitor mode is enabled, as you can see on M10. Mon0 means monitor mode is enabled. So the card has successfully been put into the monitoring mode. So note that the new monitor mode interface is Mon0. Then type armon dump ng and your monitoring mode. As you can see Mon0 because this one is this one. So just type air dump ng followed by the name of your new monitor interface, which is probably most likely be Mon0. So air dump will now then after this list all those wireless networks in your area and a lot of useful information about them. Locate your network on the network that you have permission to penetration test. Once you exported your network on the ever population list, just type press Ctrl+C to copy or just Ctrl+C to stop the process, because it will continue run this process in here. So make sure you stop the process by pressing Ctrl and C. So this will be our target network. So what you have to do now, copy this. As you can see, just copy this BSID to the target network. Now type this air dump ng. This is the channel. This is the channel. This is the BSS ID. Then this is the directory, and this is the monitor interface. So replace all of those from your machine, not this one, because this one from my machine. So make sure you change it to your machine. As you can see, this is from this. So replace channel with the channel of your target network. Paste the BSS ID where BSS ID is. Replace the monitor interface, the name of your monitor enable interface. Then -w and the file path command specified a place where arrow will save any intercepted 4-way handshake, which means necessary to crack the password. So here we saved it at the desktop. As you can see, this is the desktop directory. So a complete command will be like this. So just type this, then this will show this. So just press enter. So arrow dump will now in monitor mode. So this is the monitor mode, it will continue be running on the target network, allowing us to capture more traffic information about it. What we are really doing now is waiting for a device to connect or reconnect to the network, forcing to the router to send out the 4-way handshake that we need to capture in order to crack the password. Also 4 files should show up in your desktop. This is where, so this is the directory, this is where handshake will be saved when captured, so don't delete them. But we will not really going to wait for device to connect, so that's not impatient hackers do. We will actually going to use another cool tool that belongs to the AirCrack suite called AirPlay ng to speed up the process. Instead of waiting for a device to connect, hacker can use this tool to force a device to reconnect by sending a deauthentication, which means the deauthentication package to one of the network devices, making it think that it has to reconnect with the network. Of course, in order for this tool to work, there has to be someone else connected to the network list. So watch the arrow dump ng and wait for client to show up. It may take long time, it may take even less time, it may take second before after the first one shows. So if none shows after a lengthy wait, then the target network might be empty right now, or you're too far away from the network. So as you can see in this picture, there is a client appeared to on our network, allowing us to start our next step. Then what you have to do is leave aerodrome ng running and open a terminal. So this is the another terminal. So as you can see, this is the previous one. So it is still running, and we will have to open the another terminal and type this command. So aerodrome airplay ng -02. So the -0 is a shortcut of the shortcut for the death mode, deauthentication mode, sorry. And the 2 is the number of deauthentication packet to send, and -a, so this one, -a indicated the access point or router's BSS ID. Replace, so make sure you insert this BSS ID with the BSS ID of the target network, which in my case is this one, as you can see, this one. -c indicates the client's BSS ID. So the device we are trying to deauthentication, the note in the previous picture in here, as you can see, replace the client BSS ID with the connected client, and this will be stored in the station. And of course Mon0 merely means with the monitoring interface, so change it yours if it slightly different. So the complete command look like this. Then after hitting enter, you will see that airplay sends the packets. So if you are close enough to the target client, this will deauthentication process will work, and this message will show in the aerodrome skin, as you can see, which was running, as you can see, so which was running previously. We didn't stop it. So this means that the handshake has been captured. The password is in the hacker's hand, and in some form of another there is on password. So you can close the airplay ng terminal and just type pressed Ctrl+C to close the aerodrome terminal and stop the monitoring. So but don't close it yet, if you just in case you need some of the more information later. So if you didn't receive the handshake message, then something went wrong in the process of sending the packets. Unfortunately, a variety of things can go wrong. You might just be too far away, and all you need to do is move closer. The device you are attempting to deauthentication might not be set to automatically reconnect until someone or something connect to the network. So if you are very close to the network, you could try a Wi-Fi spoofing tool like Wi-Fi Honey to try and fool the device thinking that you are the router. However, keep in mind that requires that you need to be significantly closer to the device of the router itself. So unless that happens, or happens to be in your victim house, this is not recommended. Do note that despite your best effort, there may be many WPA networks that simply cannot be cracked by these tools. The network could be empty, the password could be 64 character long, etc. So next, this includes the external part of this lecture. From now on, the process is entirely between your computer, and those 4 files are on your desktop. So actually is the .cap on, that's the important. Now open a new terminal and type this command. So -a is the method that aircrack will use to crack the handshake, and 2 is the WPA method. -b stands for the BSS ID. Replace this one to, as I previously told, so your target router. So mine is this one. -w it stands for word list. So replace the path. So this is the word list. As you can see from desktop, it will save as a wpa.txt. So I have downloaded wpa.txt in the root folder. So root.desktop.cap, this is the path of the .cap file that contains the password. So the means wildcard in Linux. So and since I am assuming that there are no other .cap files in your desktop, this should work just fine the way it is. So then the final comment will be look like this. What you have to do, just press enter and you are done. Aircrack NG will now launch into the process of cracking the password. However, it will crack it if the password happens to be in the word list that you are selected. Sometimes it's not. If it's not in the case, you can try other word list. If you simply cannot find the password, no matter how many word lists you try, then it appears that your penetration test has failed and the network is at least in a safe from basic brute force. So safe from basic brute force attacks. Cracking the password might take a long time, very long time, depending on the size of the word list. So mine went very quickly. If the phrase is in the word list, then the aircrack NG will show it to like this. The passphrase to our test network was not secure, as you can see, not secure. And you can see here it was in word list. And aircrack found it. So if you find the password without a decent struggle, then change your password. If it's your network, if you're penetration testing for someone, then tell them to change their password as soon as possible. But I prefer you always test these types of method on your personal machine or your personal other wireless network that have in your house. So and I prefer and I suggest you don't use this for other people's cases, and that's how you hack WPA or WPA2 network using aircrack. Like anything in life, there are multiple ways of getting a hack done. In fact, good hackers usually have multiple tricks up their sleeve to hack into a system. If they didn't, they would not be usually successful. No hack works on every system and no hack works all the time. Then, one of the most popular areas for those starting out in this discipline is hacking Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi has been rife with vulnerabilities and insecurities over the years, and nearly everyone wants to take advantage of this. When Wi-Fi was first developed in the late 90s, the original encryption or security standard, which is Wired Equivalent Privacy or WEP, was easily cracked in a minute by statistical method. When it was improved with WPA, Wi-Fi hacking became more difficult but still very doable. So why WPS is so vulnerable? WPS stands for Wi-Fi Protected Setup and was designed to make setting a secure AP simplified with the average home worker. First introduced in 2006, by 2011 it was discovered that it has a serious design flaw. The WPS pin could be brute forced rather simply. With only 7 unknown digits in the pin, there are like 9,000 or 9 lakh possibilities, and most systems can attempt that many combinations in a few hours. Once the WPS pin is discovered, the user can use the pin to find the WPA2 pre-shared key, which is mean password. Since a brute force attack against a WPA2 protected API can take hours to days, so if this feature is enabled on the API or not upgraded, it can be much faster to route to getting the PSK. So in this lecture, we will be using a tool specially designed to brute force the WPS pin named River. Since it is built in on Kali Linux, and other Linux security distributors, there is no need to download or install anything on your machine. Just you have to use Kali Linux or any Linux distributor. That most of them has a built-in this tool. So but first let's talk about the background of this WPS. So the idea behind of this WPS was to simplify the setup of a wireless access point to the non-technical home user, usually an 8-digit pin, as I previously told. Then this device would generate a complex PS key that would be virtually dictionary attack proof. So to attack the WPS, we need only to brute force the pin with 8 digits. This would simply amplify 10 to 8 power possibilities. Fortunately, the 8 digit is the checksum, and so now the number of possibility is down to 10 to 7 power or 10 lakh. This is certainly a doable number giving enough time. Fortunately for us, the manufacturers actually broke down this number into two pieces. The first 4 digit is the and the second 3 digit. As a result, the only need to crack is first 4 pin with 10 to the 4th power of the possibility or 10,000 possibilities, and then another with 10 to 3rd power possibilities or 1000. This means that the crack the pin this device we only need to try 11,000 possibilities. This is certainly very doable and the number of brute force attack. So the very first step is to reconnaissance for WPS enabled APs. Before we can attack the WPS, we need to find the APs that we have WPS enabled and not locked. The developers of River have provided a recon tool called Wash with River that does that. First, we need to put our wireless interface into a monitor mode with Airmon NG. As you can see, Airmon NG, this is the monitor mode. So what we have to do is we have to monitor or start our monitor mode by typing, as this is the monitor mode, just type start, and this is the wireline connection. This will vary from machine to machine. It might be wireline 1 or wireline 0. So make sure you check out your machine 1. So let's just typing this, and now let's see whether any of the APs of this area have WPS enabled and unlocked. The syntax for Wash is this one. So if the wireless network device is wireline 0, Airmon NG will likely change its name to something like wireline 0mon. So which means the make certain to use the actual monitor device name available near to the bottom of Airmon NG output. This would give us the command line like this, full so wash -i and wireline 0mon. So this is the connection name and this is the mon. As you can see in here, there are numerous APs near to my office with WPS enabled and unlocked. I should point out that there is at least 3 times this many APs visible from my office, but only these have WPS enabled and unlocked. These of course will be the APs that I will target. Note that the first column has a BSS ID, which is the unique. As you can see, this is the BSS ID, which will always be the unique MAC address of the AP, and we need to go to our next step. So next step is to crack the pin with reverse. So let's get to the cracking with WPS pin. So remember, we have to try up to 11,000 possible pins. So this will take a while, so usually several hours. The basic syntax for this river command looks like this, which means this is the machine, Kali machine, this is the river, this is the connection of wireline mon which I previously saw, and so wireline mon is the name of our wireless device in our monitor mode, as this is the monitor mode. BSS ID is the MAC address of the AP that we are tracking. As you can see, this is the BSS ID. This, as you can see, this will vary from machine to machine. So we are using this one. As you can see, this one, this is the BSS ID. So this is the BSS ID in the MAC address that we are attacking. So once it starts, it identifies the AP name, the number of maximum attempts, the manufacturer of the model name, and the model name. As you can see, all of them are mentioned and highlighted in here. So, and it then begin to trying the all 11,000 possible pins. Eventually, River will find the pin and present it to like this. Now that you can have the pin, you can just connect to the AP without having the password. So River password, one more way to crack the Wi-Fi access. It only works on system with WPS enabled and unlocked. It must be enabled and unlocked, otherwise it won't work. So it is crucial that you run the recon tools wash fast. This one, you must have to this one start fast, otherwise you won't get into this stage. So when you find the WPS enabled and unlocked devices, River will capable of finding the pin by running through 11,000 possibilities within couple of hours. It may take 1 to 2 hours, but it will completely be done within a couple of hours, and that's how you can crack down WPS using River on Kali Linux or any Linux distributor. Wi-Fi Protected Access Enterprise is a wireless security mechanism designed for small to large enterprise wireless networks. It is an enhancement to the WPA security protocol with advanced authentication and encryption. WPA Enterprise uses a remote authentication dial-in uses service like Radius protocol to manage user authentication. WPA2 Enterprise has been around since 2004 and is still considered the gold standard for wireless network security, delivering over-the-air encryption and a high level of security. But don't think it is going easy to deploy in that time. Regardless of whatever you deploy it for the first time or seasonal expert, there are always unique challenges ready to give you a headache. First, we need to set up our environment, for which we will use hotspot tool. So which will create a fake Radius server and also host the ROG AP. So what you have to do now, you have to download some dependency before we download our tool hotspot. So just type in your Linux machine, make sure you use Kali Linux or any Linux distributor. This will help you all of that, because most of the tools are already pre-installed, and couple of the tools that you need, you can just install it using just a single command. So just type apt-get install libnl -3 -dev, then it will download all of this. It will take couple of minutes, and then download apt-get install. So after this dev, so this is the 3, this is the dev. So after that, install the hotspot WE. Now just open the WPA configuration file in here, and then change the SSD if you want, SSID. So if you want, you can change it in here. So after that, as you can see, we will check kill, means we will disable all our network connection in this PC or in this machine. Then after killing the running processes like WPA, supplicant, and then DS client, which can create problem for us while running virtual AP, and make sure your Wi-Fi card is connected to your Kali machine and up and running, because without the Wi-Fi card this won't work. You cannot monitor anything, your monitor will be blank, you cannot track or any packets. So it's better to have a Wi-Fi card that is connected to your Kali machine. So make sure you check that. Now the scenario is we named our AP name same as our target AP, which is like take underscore K2 AP. This one, as you can see, take underscore. So now from our another laptop or another Wi-Fi card, we can put that into our monitor mode and check the target AP BSS ID, which is the MAC address of the target AP and client's MAC address. So using that, we can do deauthentication using AirPlay NG and disconnect the client from its main AP. And as we have spoofed the name, we have to wait, and for that then for the client to connect back to our fake AP and then input the credential. As soon as he will put the credential, we will have that and in our Radius server logs, and the attack is also done. And this attack is also called or known as evil twin. So now we will mimic ourselves as a target client and try to connect to our fake AP. So like this, in our phone we are going to target and connect to this fake AP. So as you can see, now we need to crack it a tool named slab. So before that, what you have to do, as you can see, we have to just type this configuration file in our terminal. So make that all of those are connected and running on our or monitoring on our device. So this will vary from machine to machine, so make sure you check that. As you can see, this is monitoring all of those on this network. So what we'll now do is we'll try to crack it tool name asleep. So as you can see, this is the tool that we're gonna do all the work. So what you're gonna type, so just type asleep then -c. So this flag -c will represent the challenge parameter. So then the ID. So as you can see, this is the same challenge ID, as you can see. So make sure type this one, then type -r. So -r will represent response, and maybe many of you don't know, we used -w. So this one, so to get the word list from whatever come from the pipe, which is rocku.txt. This one, as you can see, this is the word list file. So we are using -w to get the word list from here. So as within a second we can crack the password, but this is a very simple password which is easy to crack. Now let's try with some more complex password this time. So as you can see, so as you can see, it will take a couple of minutes. So after a couple of minutes, as you can see, it cracked the password is in here. But what if the password is not listed in any word list, that in here? So if it isn't in here, so then we have to create our own rainbow table with the combination of alphanumeric plus special character. So for that we can use this character set.txt to generate the list, and then we will use like crunch to generate our own rainbow table. So take an example like the password is password@123 and which is not available in this txt file or any of the list we have that created, so our own. So in this way you can try to crack the password, but this process will take a lot of time depending upon your password length and password strength, and obviously your data list. So make sure your data list is pretty big and pretty long, and the long your data list is, the longer it will take to generate the password if it is matched or not. Then if it's matched, then as you can see, if it is matched, then as you can see all of them are in here, and this is the hash function, hash dump. So in this way you can generate or crack a WPA or PA2 enterprise password similarly, or you can use other way, but I think this is the easiest way to generate the enterprise WPA2 password. So captive portal. A captive portal is a web page that the user of a public access network is obliged to view and interact with before access is granted. Captive portals are typically used by business centers, airports, hotel lobbies, coffee shops, and other venues that offer free Wi-Fi hotspot for internet users. And so also some like mobile operators that are organizing Wi-Fi access point using the hotspot intercepting portals with authorization on the web interface, which means the capital portal login. So what is capital portal? There is an open network to which you can connect without a password, but when you try to access any site, we will be transferred to a page where you need to enter your credential, make payment, confirm a phone number using SMS, something similar to. Intercepting portal is an alternative method to limit the number of users. Due to this approach, it is possible to flexibly regulate access to the internet network, for example, to issue accounting data that are valid for a specified period of time, and to monitor the activity of a specific user. Sometimes, in order to gain access, it is enough to enter a PIN from a free SMS message or ask for a username and password at the reception. But sometimes you need to buy access. For example, like there is a message that says that I am currently connected to like a single network. So in order to be used by the internet access service, you need to contact the office, and I do not want to go there because I already know that they will tell me that some money I have to charge, so you have to pay some money to use. So not sure if I need internet for such condition. So let's talk about captive portals hacking with authorization on the web interface. So we will use hack captive portals, a script for breaking into any captive portals using the MAC spoofing technique. So if you have Linux, Kali Linux or any Linux distributor and Ubuntu, Linux Mint or Debian or any other their derivatives, then you have to install this package. So just type it into a terminal and it will install this. So after that you have to download the script itself. So make sure you download using this command. Then what you have to do is make the file executable. So just run this simple code. I already selected this so that you can understand. So just after that you have to do is make the file executable, then finally just run. So as you can see, it will get you a result similar like this, and you will see the line that you can surf the internet. So next, how to make like capital portal signal available to other devices. No matter how you get access, legally or illegally, you can share your internet connection for multiple devices. You can open internet access from a virtual machine to a real computer. In this principle, I use a method called this. So what do you need to do is, we will need to have two Wi-Fi adapters. One is connected to the intercept portal and second is distributing the internet for its. So previous stage, when we crack the intercept portal, it's quite possible that we use the connection using the network manager. We will reduce the number of inconveniential hangs and save our nerves if we perform subsequent actions using network manager. So what you have to do now is you have to install some additional packages into your Linux machine. So make sure just type this. As you can see, it's pretty easy. Just what you have to do is just type every one of the codes in your Linux terminal, and it will do all of this automatically. Then after that, after you install additional packages, what you have to do now is you have to stop the network manager. So just type this, and it will, as you can see, airmong ng, it will kill the network manager. So if you are working from a virtual machine, then you need to disconnect the virtual wired connection so that the script will not get confused when it searches for the default gateway. If necessary, just change the Ethernet 0, which is the default wireless from your virtual machine, name to your wired network interface. Then what you have to do now is from this next you have to type or terminal, you have to use couple of more commands to execute this. So after that, if you are working for a virtual machine, there are some differences from connected to the access point from the command line. So because we are connected to an access point with encryption, means with a password, now we will connect to an open access without a password. So what you have to do is we have to, for example, create a configuration file, and we will name it. Because I didn't explain this, so what you just type down, it will turn off your internet on your virtual machine. So as you can see, this is the default virtual machine Ethernet wireless. So just type this terminal, it will turn off your network connection on your virtual machine. So after that, just make sure create a configuration file name wpa_soup.configuration. So config. So what you have to do now, so connect this using this configuration file. So you have to wait something appears like, as you can see, control event. So after typing this, it will show something like this, connection to. So since we have not transferred the process in the background, then open a new console window, or just you can just clear the previous one and work from that, but it's better to use a new console window and enter, just type this sudo dhylan. So at this point you have to run the captive portal hacking script. So this is the script. So it will take couple of minutes and wait until successful computation. Now we need to raise our own access point, which will use the intercept portal interface as a source of internet access. So we look at the name of our interface by like this. So this is our interface. So the couple of network interfaces. So just type IWDevs and it will give you all the interfaces. So what you have to do now is, so you have to create an API, name anything, like I named it as Kali tutorial. So just type create API or line hackware this line. So after that, if a string will appear, then as you can see, Wi-Fi LAN 1 or 0 is API enabled. Then if you see this, then everything went well. The command above creates a API, the connection of which is not the password protected. So if you want to create a password protected API, then use a command like this, Wi-Fi 0 API enabled. then what you have to do is, as you can see, previously our API is enabled. So now what you have to do, you use a command to create a password protected API. So sudo create API. For example, like in order for my API to have like password, so this is the password, so I use this command as previously told. This is my name, Kali tutorial. So F is your so if your wireless adapter support IEEE 802.11n, then you can optionally use this one, this IEEE 802.11n option, which includes the IEEE 802.11n. Since I carried out all the operation in the virtual machine to which two USB Wi-Fi adapters are connected, the virtual machine now has the internet, but the real computer does not have it. But since the virtual machine is running in a laptop with an integrated Wi-Fi card, my real computer connected to the access point that the virtual machine creates. The connection was successful and now the main computer also has internet. As you can see, this is all connected. To understand why it is so easy to get around the intercepting portal as well as to see other workarounds, so you need to understand exactly how the captive portal works. As it was already possible to see, this is an open access point that anyone can connect to. So remember this, we already have access to a local network without hacking. So if the phrase local network you immediately comes into mind like sniffing, then you are right. The network equipment is configured to redirect all the connected users to one and the same web pages configuration that contain the condition to access the network. So on the page you enter a PIN from a SMS or login and password, typically HTTP, used to access the intercept portal web pages. This is due to the peculiarities of the local network. It is impossible to obtain valid SSL certificates for local addresses, and the use of valid one adds nothing to security, but at the same time creates additional problems. So by the way, if you are connected to a portal and try to open something in a web browser, but you do not redirect to the captive portal web page, then most likely the fact is that you are trying to access the site with a HTTPS protocol. Try to open any site on HTTP and you will still transfer to the login page. To prevent users from using non-standard ports, for example like connected VPN or Tor or proxy browser, all traffic on all ports is blocked. In addition to UDP traffic on port 53, it is necessary to pass request to the DNS server. So network interfaces have a unique identifier MAC address. So it is on the basis of it that the device that is allowed access is remembered. Intercepting portal can leave cookies on a web browser, but they are on an auxiliary nature, for example to speed up re-authentication. So here the strong configuration of the intercept portal is described with protection to the fullest. So specific implementation may be weaker. For example, a DNS server can be used to redirect the portal page, which will respond to all requests with the IP address of the capital portal and thus will not have properly have filter traffic. So as a result, such a portal can be bypassed simply by using a normal VPN connection or by installing a DNS server in the setting paired with a Tor browser. So next we'll talk about bypass the captive portal. Now that we understand the principles on which the work of the capital portal is based, the weak points are clearly visible. The first method of circumventing the portal or captive portal is the theft of MAC and IP addresses. It is the method that uses the hack captive portal script. It intercepts IP and MAC from someone who is already connected and authorized in the intercept portal. The principle of operation is very simple. The script finds all the live hosts that are local network and tries their MAC and IP in return. Right after the fitting a check, which is made whether the global network is available. If available, the script stops working, and we can enjoy the wonders of the internet. If the external network is not available, simply try this MAC and IP, etc. Very simple but very effective. Mandatory requirement is the local network. There must be someone who has already logged into intercept portal. So in principle, it is possible to write out several MAC IP work pairs and connect even when the hosts are not at home. But such pair can be rotten and they can be valid, for example, only for a day. However, this is a very effective and most versatile method. Second one is bypass captive portal using UDP port. Usually all TCP and UDP ports are blocked on intercepting portal for non-authenticated users. All but one, 53 UDP port with normal networking. This port is required to query DNS server in order to convert hostname to IP. You need to start by checking if DNS queries are spoofing, which usually not. To do this, just run this command on the terminal several times for several hosts. So for example, to get the IP host, just type this. To get the Google host, type this, etc. similar like this. So if the results are different and not, for example, every time like 192.168.88.1 for another local IP address, then DNS requests are free to pass on UDP port which is 53, which is open. Though port 53, you can configure UDP proxy, VPN and other tunnel. Free UDP VPN on port 53 can be found right in Google. True, this method did not work out for me for the intercepting portal, and that was in close proximity to me. Maybe I was not doing something quite right. Perhaps the problem was with a particular VPN service provider, or nevertheless, my intercepting portal was somehow way limited, and 53 on 53 UDP port. Who was successful or his own thought on UDP VPN on port 33? You can understand that it's pretty easy and it will be get to learn for all of us. So next is we are going to talk about more is theft of bypass the credential using theft of credential of legitimate user. Since in the captive portal we are with other users on the same local network, and the data for authorization on the portal is sent via the HTTP protocol, not HTTPS. So there will be couple of scheme seems to be working, like connect to an open network, run ARP spoofing, start sniffing and analyze the data that obtained. So in practice, due to the peculiarities of building a network of portals, the attack is always not successful. A less invasive means a much more convenient method and purposed by a person with the user 100 username on a forum. You can use that, but we take advantage of the fact that this is an open network traffic is transmitted without encryption. Those will not connect to the network, but we will use AeroDump NG to listen to the traffic. So first we need to start we need to stop the network manager and kill processes that can hinder us using this very simple command. So next in the command, if necessary, replace the name of WLAN 0 with the name of your wireless interface, putting the card into monitor mode. So this is set into monitor mode. Then this is means, so this line means it will set your network off, and then if you set the monitor, then it will have then it will get up your network. So run nrw-ng to find out which channel to the access port is interest to us. So just type a single command, then you will get similar like this. As you can see in this picture, there are several open APs at different frequencies. As you can see, several of them, I highlighted that. So I choose the one with the strongest signal since he or she should be easier or closer to me. Now when we show the necessary information, what you have to do is run arrow-ng again, and with this following option, like this option to save the captured data into a file, and we set a certain channel so that arrow-ng constantly listen only to it and did not jump to other channels. So now just wait for enough. So after that, just type this into a comment. So what you have to do now is just wait for enough data to accumulate. We need to just have a authenticated user on the network. We need to wait until a authenticated user enters their credential. Depending on the number of network user, it may take several hours or even more. So pay attention to the data field. If it does not change at all, so there is no one to connect it to the access point. So if it changes sluggishly, then someone is connected, but that does not surf on the internet. So to analyze the data, open a capture file. So make sure you run Wireshark on your Linux machine. Then just run the program and open the capture file that you saved. So to speed up the search, use Wireshark filter, a filter that shows only data sent by the post. So what you have to do, just type this into here. So this is the filter, wireless filter, which is built in on Wireshark. So make sure you type those commands in here. So this command, this post method, it will show only the data sent by a post, and this is the filter that shows only the data transmitted to the get method, and this shows all the HTTP traffics, the filter. So make sure you write within in lowercase. So because Wireshark is case sensitive, so make sure you write in all lowercase. And another to option the display of all HTTP traffic, because HTTP traffic mostly on port 80, and this one is for search for request to a specific site. So you can just type any specific site you want to search, and this one search request to a specific site by name. Then with this IP address, you can show all traffic from a specific IP. So make sure you try all of that. And this one is show all traffic that has a specific IP address on a source or destination. To speed up the process, I connected from another device and logged into arbitrary data. So I entered like 11111 as username and 22222 as the password, as you can see in here, username. So this is the intercepted data from Wireshark. So there are various useful information in here, but the main one is this line, this one. So unfortunately, instead of the password there is a hash, as you can see, and not just a hash. In the source code you can see that it is a salt that is added to the password before the conversation. The address of the JavaScript is like portal.md5, which is this one, portal.cloud https. So it has the same function as the hex md5. So apparently this is the password, is first conveyed to a binary string, then its md5 hash is considered, then the binary string is converted to hexadecimal. You can say that I was not lucky. If you manage to intercept the password in a clear view, then everything is fine. If you have a similar situation when the password is hashed, you can still use it, although it requires to extra action to our part, and it is important to the server to get the correct string. And how it is created, and it does not check those. We can just send using a curl containing all the necessary data that server will perfectly accept our hash instead of the password itself, since it also receives the hash from the other user. Moreover, in order not to use curl anytime, every time, you can create a simple HTML file with the correct form that will send all the necessary data including the hash. This file can be shown or thrown on the phone and log into and get from other portal. So in any case, it will be necessary to correctly identify all the transmitted fields, including hidden ones, indicate the correct referrer. If necessary, all this problem are solvable. So in conclusion, consider the most common configuration captive portal, hotspot with authorization through a web interface. The node contains the most effective ways to circumvent them. However, there are other variants of intercepting portal that use more data to identify user. For such cases, the method described here today is hacking open a hotspot may not be working. So the hack captive portal script showed itself perfectly in hacking hotspot with a web entry, full automation with a good result.